So I think the educational process, Ty and Oregon's a great place to build a startup. Must be working because you guys are smart, and I'm just like, wow, there's going to be all kinds of like really successful ventures, and I think they're already, Oregon's a great place, and a lot of successful startups are moving in that direction already. Anyway, so I promised my daughter I'd ask this question. She goes to Catlin. Are there any Catlin kids here? Okay. Cool. All right. Good. So she's Dakota King. She's probably like younger than you guys. I think she's probably a few years below you guys. All right. Anyway, so so you'd think that I would like know my own career, but Michael asked me to make sure that I had a lesson learned in each chapter, so this will be a little embarrassing, but I might actually look at this from time to time to remind myself of the lessons learned. Some of them were very painful, so I'm trying to block them out of my memory, and that's hard to remember over time. But anyway, I've got about a half an hour, so I've divided my business life into 4 chapters, and I'm going to tell you about each one of them in 7.5 minutes or less. So chapter 1 is, I call it various service businesses, starting with babysitting, which was kind of where I started. I went from there to teaching kids how to do origami, because it was like the only skill I had other than babysitting. Babysitting is not really a skill. It just requires, right, sitting with the kids. And that kind of progressed to like SAT tutoring, only on the math side, because I still don't know how to do the English side at all. But we did that for a while, and then helped kids with their personal computers. So a lot of Apple II and IBM type training and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. Towards the end of that, like last year in high school, over that summer, we really got more aggressive. So I had some friends around me, and I was like, how can we teach more people? So I rented a room in my father's office, which is 170 square feet. We put 4 computers in there, and we taught classes from like 8 in the morning till 8 at night, every hour, on the hour, 7 days a week. So 84 classes a week, and we just taught people like how to get going with their machines, basic word processing, basic spreadsheet type skills, etc. So we had like 15 people working out of a 170 square foot office. Most of them were in the hallways, on the streets, giving out flyers and stuff like that. But we taught a lot of people, how to get going with their PCs. It was kind of a good time because the IBM PC had just come out. Everyone wanted to learn how to use it. Our office was across the street from Grand Central, so we set up a card table. We put the machine on the card table. Actually had electricity on the street, so we're showing people how to do stuff, and it drew a lot of attention. So ultimately, that towards the end of the summer, we got like a full-page New York Times write-up. We got CNN Eyewitness News, and it was kind of fun. So the lesson learned there is that we had absolutely no idea what we're doing, but no one told us what couldn't be done. So ordinarily, like the concept of not working 7 days a week, didn't understand it. The concept of needing office space to do things other than actually do the training. We weren't limited by any of those items. We just said, like, how many flyers can we hand out? How many people can we stuff in the room? And how quickly can we turn it over? So anyway, that was kind of the key lesson learned there. So after that, chapter 2 for me was a company called Semaphore, Inc. And there we wrote financial software designed for architectural and engineering firms. My father's an architect, and I had written the software for him. So we ended up growing that business basically by going to architectural and engineering firms and trying to help them solve their accounting and billing problems. And the first installations were highly customized, and over time what we did was we sold like firm after firm after firm, and we began to see the similarities, and over time we built it into more of a productized a product, which we were able to then ultimately sell to about 2,500 firms nationwide. So we always had this distinction between firms that were customized and firms that had bought the entire product, but it was very much always a struggle to try and do the customizations and then build those ones that we felt were important back into the product so that we could customize those customers. So I think towards the end we had like 2,500 customers, and maybe about 50 of them, were customized. But I think there was kind of a key lesson there, which was to gradually transition from being a service-based business where we're writing code on a custom basis for customers to a product basis, and I think that's what really allowed the company to grow. We did, over a very long time, like 16 years, grow the company to about a little bit over 100 people, and quite a few customers pretty much throughout the US. So let's see, other lessons learned there. Oh, right, I kind of did that business like way longer than I wanted to. I fell into like writing accounting software, and I totally hated it. I just really got to like never want to talk to another CFO again. And I think that kind of hurt me because I was pretty inefficient there for a long time. If I had that to do over again, I would have just maybe moved on more quickly to doing something that I enjoyed more. So I think that I didn't really do a very good job with that during a pretty good length of time while I was running it. Anyway, so in 2000, I decided I wanted to do something different, and that's when I decided to move from New York, which is where I was at the time, to Portland, Oregon. I had a friend who is now an ex-friend. I know some of you guys in the room know the story, but I won't belabor it too much. But we had this idea of helping people acquire secondary market domain names. And the way this idea came into being was that I had wanted a domain name called Ray'sWorld.com to build like a personal site. It was kind of the time of Wayne's World, which many of you guys to know about, was out there. So I wanted this name, and it was taken by somebody else, as many .com names are. So I called the guy up and I said, can I buy the name from you? And the guy actually was very nice. He said, you don't need to buy it. I'll just let it drop and you can pick it up because I'm actually not using it right now. And so when the name expired, I tried to go get it, but I couldn't because at that very moment, the name wasn't available. So I waited. I said, maybe, it takes a little time. So the day the name expired, it wasn't available. I checked the next day, and then I checked the next day. And then I was like calling Network Solutions. They wouldn't tell me when I was going to delete. They just said, keep checking it. So I checked it, and eventually was really frustrated and wrote a little software to check it automatically. But I really wanted to make sure I was the first one there. So we had the software check every hour. And basically it was very simple. We just checked the whois record, if you guys are familiar with that, and looked for any change in status. And if there's any change in the status of the name, email back. And we ended up picking the name up like months later. So it turns out that at the time, domain names became available at some random amount of time after they expired. But once I got the name, then, like as I was telling my friends, everyone had a name they wanted. It's like everyone I could talk to said, oh, that's great, I want this, or I want that, can you use your little thing, your little utility to go grab them? And so I started just putting them into a little database, and we got a few more names, and that's how we got the idea to start Snap Names. So Snap Names basically became a little bit of an arms race. So we started checking every hour, but we found it was better if you checked every minute, and then afterwards it was better if you checked like really often. So we figured out when the names are going to become available, and then we stopped checking, and we just started saying, give me the name, actually. So give me the name is actually an add command. So the way the term developed, it became ad storming. So what happens is like when the name just becomes available, it became a little more scientific. We knew when the names were going to become available. We would ad storm, like maybe make 30,000 requests to register the name within a few seconds of when it becomes available. And that wasn't enough, because sometimes when you make the request, like from Oregon all the way to Virginia, where the central registry was, it's like 85 milliseconds. So then we had to put the servers all in Virginia. And then what happened was,